Hello everyone, in tonight's video I'm going to show you how to tie this fly, but the focus will be on pull up to pull down technique, which you can use on literally every fly you can tie. It's a technique where you apply pressure in the opposite direction of pulling your thread. So if you pull towards you, the thread will actually press the material away from you. If you pull it up, you will obviously press it down. If you pull down, then your thread will press up onto material, and so on. You will see it in the video. It's very useful. It's one of those techniques that when you learn how to do them, you just think like, why I didn't know this before. Let's go into materials and tying. So when it comes to materials, hook is the first choice, and for the hook I'm going to use a curved hook just because I like the shape, and it can imitate, the position of it, like the shape that it gives can suggest caddis or mayfly. Just looks good, and that's it. No reasons. You can use jig hook for this, like straight hook, standard hook, dry fly hook, anything will work. So I chose to use Gamarus or Scott hook. Second material we will use is some silver beads in 3.5 millimeter size. This is tungsten, but you can omit this or you can just make it bigger, smaller. That depends purely on size of the hook, which I forgot to say, this is size 10, and also how strong the flow is. Next material that I like, and I like to use it for tails mostly on dry flies, but nymphs also, is coq de lion. I love the speckles on those barbs, and it's just magnificent material. Now the most important part is double shaded body. So here you can see the codes of the thread I'm using, but it's embroidery thread in brown and peach color. That's it. That's how I would say it. Obviously you can change it to suit your needs. You can make green and light green, or green and yellow, or red and yellow, or whatever. It's just bottom color is usually lighter. It's up to you of what you see on your river and so on. After you put some body on, you don't have to, obviously, you can add some material, some fleshy material along the back, just to add some sheen there. But because I'm using ice dub for the wing case cover, I can omit this material, so not so important at this moment. For the thorax part, I will use two things. I will use regular dubbing. This is my own mixture of hair plus some UV dubbing in, this is pink. It looks green here, but it's pink because just let it, I put maybe, I don't know, 10%. I never measure, I just eyeball it. So that's for the thorax. And of course legs are going to be some CDC. For CDC I suggest you to use some cheap CDC, because it's not so important to use good quality CDC for legs, but obviously you should use whatever you have on you. Thread I forgot to mention is Semperfli Nano Silk, and this is in black, 12 aught. Again, anything you have available is okay. Darker, lighter, it's up to you. Again, you can always hide the thread with dubbed with finish. I will need some scissors, obviously, to cut. I will need some Velcro teaser, perhaps maybe dubbing needle, and my favorite dubbing twister that's like quite heavy, and I love it. I have this one for 20 years or so, and it works perfectly well. There's nothing to get broken over here. So let's get into tying. So I'll start with the hooking device, and you can see it's a little bit bent with eye facing downwards. Not so important, it's just a position that allows me to go a little bit more into the bend. That's the reason why I did it. I'll start by waxing the thread to make more friction between thread and the hook, so I start easier with the GSP. And after a couple of tight wraps and everything gets secured, as you can see I'm pulling hard, it's not unraveling, I can actually attach my first material. It's always easier to slice through your thread than to cut it with scissors if you're using GSP, obviously. And first material is going to be one of the best tailing materials, coq de lion. And because I already told you that I will talk about pull up to pull down, so let's start with pull up to pull down actually. So I want this tail to be around here, so when it bends it's going to be some distance, like not too long, not distance, but some length. It's not going to be too long, just there, present. So counterspin the bobbin holder to make thread a little bit flat and jump to your left or to your non-dominant hand, and like 2 soft wraps, and you can see that everything goes on the top. Now with a couple of soft wraps I'll gather everything on the top of the hook and pull up. Obviously, because the hook is round shape, a circle, it's easy to, just by doing this, you will actually push the tails around the hook, which obviously is not what we want. We want to keep those tails on the top of the hook shank. And now look what happens. I'll just go soft wrap. You can notice that there is flat thread over here. So soft wrap, not moving the tails, and then pull up. Soft wrap, pull up. Soft wrap, pull up. If you need, flatten the thread again, because it gets wider. It makes less wraps to cover the whole body, as opposed to corded threaded, you need like so many wraps to cover the hook shank. So soft, up, soft, up, soft, up, and so on. Now the reason why I'm doing this is just to show you what you can do with this. You can obviously hold it with your hand and just wrap it around, but sometimes that's not convenient or possible, and then you want to know this technique, obviously. Now I'm watching if everything works well, if everything goes on top. So the pressure of your thread is crucial. If you apply too much pressure when going around, you'll actually ruin everything. Now the second material I will use is embroidery thread, and for this I will let lighter thread away from me and darker thread towards me. So I'll put darker thread at this point, and you can just go and make it with a soft wrap, catch it near the tails, and then I'll just pulling upwards until I reach thorax area. Now this is obviously super soft, so it's easy to push around the hook with too much pressure. But if you apply the same technique, now it's going to be round. As you can see, I make a round, but now I pull towards myself to push the thread away. So pull to push, pull towards yourself to push the embroidery thread away. So soft pull towards you, soft pull towards you. Basically what you need to do is, oops, I made a mistake. Basically what you need to do is you just need to pull in the opposite direction of where you want your material to go. So if you want to push your material down, you need to pull up with your thread, and so on and so on. So it's a very easy and useful technique. Now next material is going to be away from me, so it's going to be the third direction that I'm applying pressure. We were doing pull up to pull down, and this one, so I'll just catch it like this because it's just more convenient and I can easily see it. But now let's apply the principles that we just learned. So it's going to be away from me, and obviously again I know I can actually manipulate with my left hand, but I don't want to do that. So instead of pushing towards me, which can rotate the thread, I will do it away from me. So soft wrap and away from me, soft, away, soft, away, soft, away, and so on and so on. Now, just to speed up things, I'll manipulate it with my fingers, obviously. And when I reach the tail, I'll just spread those and see if everything is right. It looks right. Now I want to lift those tails a little bit, and to do that I tangled. Okay, so I'm good. No, I'm not good. I just frayed the thread, but the GSP is gonna work fine. So I'll go under the thread, push it up, and then put those threads back. So, okay, because I frayed the thread, I'll just go up and away and catch it. Now here, obviously, I can make a little bit of taper, and for this purpose I'm not going to bother with flat thread because it's a large fly and it's thin thread, so those bumps that I will create will not affect the overall look of the fly. So just create slight taper, not too much. It would be easier if I was using some thicker thread for this. Now, I don't need to do anything else. I need to get rid of this thread over here that I frayed. GSP is really tricky stuff to cut, even with new scissors. Okay, done. Now at this point I'll just whip finish and I will change my lens, but first I will just explain what to do. Now, when it comes to weaving, you want those threads apart, and then you want to press lighter one over the darker one, and then go make just an overhand knot and go with lighter one from behind through the loop. Well, maybe I don't need to change the lens. Let's try to do it like so. So obviously you have this loop over here with the darker thread on the top, which is our goal, and then just tighten the knot, and I'll push it all slowly. This one, the first one is very, let's say, difficult one. It's not difficult, you just don't want to push this tail to put it back together. Now when you get it tight, you can just release the pressure. This embroidery thread is actually quite good because it's not slippery. If you use viscose thread that's quite slippery, you need to keep somehow constant tension, or you need to wax the viscose, which is not so convenient. So again, I go over the dark thread with my light thread, and from behind I make this overhand knot, and then I just push this dark thread to create this kind of loop. Oops, let's go back, and then tighten the knot, and you will always have the dark thread on the top, light on the bottom, which is our goal. So again, light one over the dark, and from behind you push this tag, and with overhand knot you go against the hook, tighten the knot, not completely. Now when you want to set the knot, you can, by changing this angle of those tags, you can decide whether you want to have this abdomen lower, like bottom part of abdomen, you want it narrow or wide, or you want equal parts like on the top and on the bottom. If you want equal parts, just pull it apart. If you want lower parts to be wider, just go in a V shape, or reverse V shape if you want bottom part to be more narrow, if that makes any sense. So just keep it tight, because it will prevent rotating of the whole body when you fish the fly and when you remove the fly from fish's mouth and so on and so on. You can obviously put some glue, but that will ruin the fly because it will soak into the thread. So I'll just continue weaving and keeping the same angle if I want everything to be the same. But you can always watch those knots and keep them aligned, and that will tell you if you're doing a good job or not. So remember, always the same action: light over the dark. You can see it's over, and then you put it behind and through the loop. Make an overhand knot, and that's it. Now let's speed up the video. Now when you're satisfied with how much of the body you have covered, and because we don't have this slippery thread as I was telling you, we can stop everything and see where are we at with the fly. And as you can see, my goal was to have this kind of wider part on the top and more narrow at the bottom. Just looks nice and more real in my opinion. So I'll just push this thread back so I can reach with thread and reattach the thread. I'll do the same waxing process as I did it at the beginning of the video. Just make it less slippery. But this time we also need to fix this bead into the position. But before that, I don't want to manipulate too much with anything around the hook. So I want to secure everything with thread. So I'm keeping it together. I'm making 2 loose wraps over here, and then I'll just pull thread and pull the tying thread and set everything in the position. I'm going backwards to tighten everything up. No. Okay. I'll cover relatively wide portion of the thorax because I need this for the thorax area, wing case cover and so on. Now I also need to fix this bead into the position so it doesn't spin around. I usually do that by angling it up. So you can also add a little bit of lead into this slot over here and just tie it with your thread and it won't spin. I don't use lead for many years now, very rarely, so I just actually build a dam with thread and fix it in position. It doesn't slip, it doesn't spin around, it's okay. I guess monofilament can be also inserted inside. Okay, a little bit more. There we are. Now you want to add some ice dubbing for wing case cover or something else that you prefer, obviously. I like to kind of realign those fibers to make them more or less even. And because I don't like to use too much dubbing and cut a whole bunch of it to when I finish, I like to keep it, attach it tight in by the middle, and then go 2 sides of, like you can see now, like a V shape. I'm just kind of preserving and not wasting my materials. Okay, now when I'm kind of satisfied with the length, I want more here. I just want this thorax to be relatively wide, because then a wing case cover will also be wide. That's it. You don't need short fibers, you need to catch all those fibers together. It will help later, I will explain you why. So at this point I want to make a dubbing loop. So just go like this. Around the loop I make 2 wraps and then just go back to the bead. You can attach your dubbing twister or whatever tool you use for spinning. And then I will add dubbing on one of these loop legs, and you just need to attach slightly, as just to keep it there. Like, you don't need to dub firm dubbing needle, just make nice round and around the thread. That's it. This should be enough to cover the thorax area. And now I'll take CDC feather, so CDC feather, and I'll take just 1/2 of it, one side, and I will use it to make and to suggest legs of this nymph. So I don't have too much, maybe 2 centimeters. Let me see, 1, 2, 2.5 more or less in length. And I will not attach it into the dubbing loop where the dubbing is. I'll attach it in front of the dubbing, because I want those legs to go at the end of the dubbing loop. I took it too shallow, so just push those legs kind of through the thread, and now I'll just spin. Spin. Well, it spins nicely, and GSP is very good for this because you can spin hard without breaking the thread. Now I'll just tease the dubbing out and then go over the thorax, go over the wing case cover, and it will make this kind of bulbous shape behind. Okay, and then touching wraps go towards the bead. It's kind of easy to do this one at this point, and when you get into the legs, just pull them back, pull them back, pull them back, and pull them back. Now, time to wax thread again for a couple of reasons. I want to spin my tying thread around the loop, like kind of like this, a couple of times, to make it more difficult for the loop when I cut it to run away. Because it's twisted, it's under pressure, constant pressure. I don't want that to get somehow out. I don't know if it's possible, but I'm thinking maybe it is, and I want to prevent it. I never tested it actually. So I'm brushing out sideways those legs because I don't want them under the wing case cover, trapped. And then I'll just take the wing case cover. If you have suggestion for some longer fibers, you can use them, but this is quite okay for me. Now with soft wrap, as you can see, I'm not keeping it narrow, I'm keeping it kind of wide because I have volume to this wing case cover. Go with soft wraps. One soft wrap. You can with your nail manipulate this kind of to make it wider if you want. If you have some extra fibers, pull them, snip them, whatever. As you can see, I applied a lot of pressure over here, and now it's time to cut. Trying to cut as close as possible. Okay, time to use new scissors. For some reason I'm trying to keep those safe because I ruin scissors easily. Like, I drop them, and once you drop them, Murphy's law will make them fall directly onto the tips. The tips will get bent and so on and so on. And it's not a cheap thing to buy, those TMCO, but it's good. Anyway, by this time thread got flattened, which is good. I just need to make one whip finish with this. And the reason why I made why I waxed it is actually this whip finish will not slip anyhow after you wax it. So one is enough. Cut it. Last thing to do about this is to remove all the unnecessary fibers that are sticking out, like so, because you want to apply some UV glue. So keep this down. You don't want anything in your way. Anyway, if you don't want this neat, you don't have to bother like me. Okay. Now apply some UV or the wing case, and because I have this nice needle, I can actually try to push this UV into the dubbing, into the wing case, to make it soak in, and by doing so I will make it more durable, because it will not catch only the surface area, it will actually bond inside everything. I'll make it a little bit rounded. As you can see, looks nice and super shiny, and that's the whole goal of this. After you cured everything, what I like to do, I like to actually pull these legs, tease these legs away sideways. Just looks nicer, and it actually reveals the nice looking of this abdomen. If you have too much of legs on the bottom, you can always snip them away. If you think you're right, as I think now, just go and fish this fly. So guys, let's just repeat what we did. So it's all about pull up to pull down technique that you can use in all possible directions. 360 degrees are around the hook shank. So if you just do it in the opposite direction. If you want to press something down on the hook, you need to pull your thread up, because the previous wrap will actually dive in. It will press down onto the hook. So if you want to press something this way, as I'm pressing this hook towards myself, I will push my thread away from me. If you want to press it away from you, then you need to pull thread towards you, and so on and so on. It works 360 degrees around the hook. It's applicable to all possible materials. Obviously with softer materials it gets a bit trickier. You need to control your pressure much better. With harder materials, with such as wire, it's not so necessary. You can actually apply more and not so much controlled pressure, and it will work again. So guys, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your time, because I know I make lengthy videos. I hope you like them, and if you do, please share them, like them, comment down below. It really helps, and I'm really glad to help if I can, and I will answer all of your comments. Until next time, keep safe and tight lines.